leadership, but also people who have been have been to Cuba before and specifically have been there with the Friendshipment Caravan. There's certain things that we're going to be sharing during the orientation in Florida. And I don't want to, just inundate you with information, but I want to just, so some of this will be a little repetitious because we'll be speaking about some of this when we get to Miami. But I want you to kind of have a sense of the caravan, the history, the significance, the importance of what it is that we've been trying to do. We, IFCO Pastors for Peace, small staff, but that is really about you and our broader Cuba Solidarity community has been trying to do for the past 30 years, and that is to lift up information about the real Cuba, providing an opportunity for people to go, to see, to witness the reality for themselves. Super quick, for those of you who don't know, we've been organizing these caravans since 1992. The beginning of the Cuba caravans was, sparked by our lifting up our voices in opposition to our government's policies in various parts of the world. And we started out in Nicaragua and in various parts of Central America. And this movement has really engaged our support for our friends, our families in Cuba, and our opposition to this blockade policy that has created incredible harm and just, it's been a boot, we like to say, in the foot of the Cuban people. And we as people of conscience, people of faith, some of us come to this through a faith perspective. Some of us come to it because we just believe it's wrong. Some of us, it just doesn't feel right. Whatever the case might be, as long as people are supportive of the initiative to express opposition to this harmful policy, we're cool, right? We're in sync. So I'm excited. I can't wait to meet all of you. I've been reading a little bit about each and every one of you on your applications, and I want to kind of put faces to names. But I think that there are tremendous opportunities for us all to learn from one another. Those of us who may be older, to learn from our younger brothers and sisters. And for those of you who are younger, and this may be your first time, to learn from those who have been to Cuba. And if not been to Cuba, have a passion and a commitment to overall solidarity. So I'm so excited. I think this is great. We're going to have 80 people, in a little way that's daunting, because we haven't, in the earlier caravans, we began doing these in 1992. We had 100, 125, 150, 200 people, I think, at the height. And in these latter years, we've been having more like, 50 people probably at the most. So we've got a group of 80 people. I think all from all different walks of life, but that are really committed to justice, and we're coming together under the umbrella of expressing our opposition to this. I'm trying not to. I see my friend Dolamar. I'm trying not to use bad language here, but this backwards, antiquated policy.
Use all the language you need, Gail. Use all the language you need.
Thank you, Pastor Dolamar. Every once in a while,
because if it's not you, it will be me.
I hear you. But I'm excited to meet you all. I think that this is going to be a tremendous trip. I'm going to talk more about the history of the caravan, certainly during orientation. But the reality is, we've been doing these caravans. We've started in different ways. We've had buses and trucks, and we've morphed into maybe, that have been traveling through routes across the country. We've morphed into taking our aid with us in our suitcases. The important thing has been to go to Cuba, see the reality there. The aid is important, but it's symbolic. And again, we'll talk about a lot more about this during our orientation. In this case, it's a little more, it's taken on a different face. Cuba's really struggling, and so much of that is at the, as a result of the blockade. So we, IFCO Pastors for Peace, that is always Jews taking aid as a symbolic gesture, are saying, we're gonna raise money. I mean, we've raised over $40,000, and we're buying medicines, and that's the medicines and medical equipment that we will be taking with us to Cuba. And each one of us will be, playing a significant role in this important work. We're putting more of an emphasis on the aid this year because we know our friends, our neighbors, our family are suffering as a result of this policy. And this is a way that we're expressing our opposition. But the important thing will also be, and John will talk about this a little later on, is what it is we do with the information we learn. What it is we do when we come back to the US, having learned what we're going to learn. How do we take that information and help transform the thinking and the mentality of our communities here? So I'm not going to say much more. I just want to give you a little tease about some of the things that we're going to be doing on the Caravan. We're still tweaking the program, but we're looking at, as we always do, visiting various sectors, understanding the health sector, not only visiting, hospitals, learning about the Latin American School of Medicine, the school that Fidel envisioned that could help train doctors, young people to become physicians, to go back to their home countries and to provide desperately needed medical services, including the US. And so IFCO has been honored to be the entity that actually facilitates that process. And we've got 208 US graduates and counting. We're going to learn about that. We're going to learn about
You're muted, Carol.
Okay, somehow I got muted, but I'm back. So we're going to learn about Cuba's work around the fight against COVID, not only the international work that Cuba has done, but also the efforts to create vaccines, in the midst of this pandemic. So we're going to visit scientific centers. We're going to learn about, what Cuba is doing in the LGBTQI community, learning about, the work of young people, artists and intellectuals. We'll be hearing about the economy, issues related to the struggles around race, what that really means in real terms in Cuba, so that we can help address some of the misinformation that gets spewed about what's really happening in Cuba. We'll be talking with our dear partners in the faith community, learning more about not only the fact that the church is alive and well in Cuba, but in concrete terms. What does it mean in communities? In what ways is that faith being reflected in communities? In what ways is Cuba's socialist project being brought to life in real terms by within the faith community? We'll be visiting Matanzas and learning a lot about that particular province. Visiting the slave route for the National Museum, the slave route. There's a variety. I'm almost excited. I almost can't stop looking at the list of things we've got here. We're going to visit with the committees of the Defense of the Revolution, which are essentially block clubs, right, that have helped to really disseminate information and organize different communities to address everything from elections to health. How did they fight against COVID? The CDRs, the Committees in Defense of the Revolution, were critical to that successful campaign. We'll be meeting with our partners, the Martin Luther King Center, longtime partner that is in the faith community and the community, but, really bringing that together. We'll be learning more about the youth organizations, the union, the CTC, the Workers Central Union of Cuba, and more. I mean, there's so much more that we're going to try to pack into this 10-day trip. I'll end by saying, I hope that you all are prepared for a rigorous trip, because the schedule will be, it's going to be rich. It's going to be engaging. And I plead with you to think about it this way. You might say, wow, man, we're up late at night and we've got to get up early the next day. But think about it this way, particularly for those of you who are first timers. This may be, you want to get there. You want to absorb and see and experience as much as you can. And we have asked our hosts to create a program that's going to allow people to really see and witness everything possible within this period of time. Rest up, be prepared, but we want you to come enthused, excited, and ready to just really see this wonderful island nation, learn about the reality, and then be prepared to come back and provide a clear understanding of kind of what it is that you envision, what you see Cuba to be, and not what Fox News, not that you watch Fox News, not what certain others are saying, but to go see, witness that reality, and then come back and be prepared to work with the communities that are already at work in the US, or to create your own. So there's so many wonderful opportunities that come from the possibility of being a part of this caravan. And we look forward to taking this journey with you, and just really thank you for the trust. Thank you for just being stoked up enough to want to join us and be a part of what we think is going to be really, truly a life-saving experience. So thank you. Thank you for allowing me to kind of rant. I'm excited. I hope you're excited. Can't wait to meet you all in Miami.
Thank you, Gail. So before I talk a bit about solidarity work, I want to just segue from something Gail said about looking after yourself on the caravan. I remember about 15 years ago, this caravan, we were going to be in Santiago for the July 26th celebrations. We were going to get to meet Fidel. And there was this young man who was so looking forward to it. It was going to be the highlight of his trip for his life. And the night before, like many Cubans, he was out partying and he drank too much. Next morning, he was violently sick. He never got to meet Fidel. Don't repeat that kind of experience. And we're not going to meet Fidel, except in spirit, but we are going to meet Miguel Diaz-Canel, the Cuban president. Solidarity work. I think that the key to solidarity work is being organized. So I'm going to say something about that. Many of you have done everything that's required of you already. But some have yet to do it for various reasons. So for those who haven't, I want to remind you, we need your money. We need your passport release. We need your caravan release form notarized. We need your passport page. We need your COVID certificate. And also, we need your details of how you get into Miami. And I don't want to just get an email saying, I'm arriving at 5 p.m. I want to know the full flight details. And if you're changing flight, I want to know all the details, because odds are somebody is going to miss a connecting flight. And you don't need to panic. We'll wait. We'll make it work. But if you miss your connecting flight, we need to be in touch. We need to know what's going on. So send me all your details. So solidarity work. To be honest, sometimes it's saddened me on caravans where people have come and had a great time and not done very much afterwards. We want this to be a different group because this is special this year. First of all, we are going to meet President Miguel Diaz-Canel. And going on any delegation to Cuba is better than going as an individual. But going on a Pastors for Peace caravan is another level again. Nobody else gets to meet Miguel Díaz-Canel. We get to do it because of the history that Gail's talked about over 30 years and the significance we have for the Cuban people. So you're special. We're also going into a very special time, a very crucial time in Cuban history, deeply under the cosh from the intensified blockade, Biden's failure to do anything about it, and COVID. We have a special responsibility. We will be the first. Cuba is opening up to more travel on November the 15th. We are flying in on November the 15th. You have a special responsibility, this group of Caravanistas, this class of 2021. So what do we want you to do? Well, first of all, be organized, take notes, take photos. If you've got a video camera, take video. And when you get back, tell the world. Start by telling everybody you know, and then move on to telling everybody you don't know. That could be through social media. It could be through letters to a local newspaper editor. It could be by talk radio. It could be by being part of an organized report back in any group you're part of. It could be going to see your member of Congress, or more likely their aides, to tell them about your trip. So we want all of you to be doing that, as much as possible of it. But as well as talking about Cuba, we want you to be talking about the Caravan and IFCO. We will be going again next year, probably July. We want you to be recruiting for that Caravan, because you are the best recruiters for future caravans. Your experience, your passion, your enthusiasm. It was great, you've got to go. Or if the person you're talking to doesn't fancy being on a delegation of 80 people, because not everybody does, we take delegations, smaller delegations, 10, 20 people, thematic. We'll be going in the spring. So tell them about that. As Gail said, we're going to be visiting the Latin American Medical School, and we're going to be meeting US students there. IFCO is the organization that recruits those students. So we want you to be ambassadors for that program, to help recruit students by talking to young people you know, or talking to not so young people who themselves can tell other young people. Spread the word about that program. And this year, all our pre-Caravan events have been either totally virtual or largely virtual. We hope that next year that will be different. We hope we'll be returning to in-person Caravan events around the country. Some of you are already part of, or will soon get linked to, organized groups that host Caravan events. Be part of that. Maybe that's an event you're going to speak at as the local Caravanista. And if you're not, think about taking the initiative. It can be a big thing to do, but to say, I want to organize a Caravan event in my community. We may have other people we can put you in touch with, but often this relies on one person's dynamism to really make it happen, pull it together. So think about that. And finally, this is not just all about IFCO. This is about a broader movement of which the National Network on Cuba is an important part. Gail is the co-chair of the National Network. I'm the treasurer. We have coming with us Cheryl Labash, who's another co-chair. We want you to become involved in the broader movement beyond what IFCO does. Some of you are hopefully have already participated in last Sunday of the month caravans. Caravan in a different sense, not the Friendshipment Caravan to Cuba, the local car caravans protesting the blockade, or sometimes foot caravans or bicycle caravans. Some of you, I hope, have already participated in those. They've taken place in over 20 US cities. Join in that. Maybe take the initiative if your city doesn't have one to get one started, and we'll help you in that. Some of you are already involved in the Saving Lives campaign for medical collaboration with Cuba, involved in the $650,000 that was raised, $650,000, to send 6 million syringes to Cuba to assist Cuba's vaccination program, because Cuba couldn't get the syringes because of the blockade. That campaign has also been involved in getting resolutions passed in over 30 cities and then counties, states, trade unions, resolutions passed against the blockade. So that's another aspect. So I'm not going to go into all the work of the Cuba Solidarity Campaign now. You'll hear more in Miami, you'll hear more in Cuba. But think about all that. Start preparing, get organized to play your part when you come back. I'm now going to end the presentation. It's now time for questions. Because there's so many people on, you're on 3 screens. So if you just wave your hand at me, I may not be able to see you. So please, if you've got a question, either as Joe Caravan is already doing, he's raised his hand within Zoom. He's going to be the first questioner. Or if you don't know how to do that, put a question in the chat. So open for questions. Joe, you have the floor. And say who you are.
Okay, I'm Joe Callahan from Minnesota, with the Minnesota Cuba Committee.
Joe, you muted yourself.
Can I ask you a question? You're muted. You muted, Joe.
He'll get back there. He'll get it. We'll wait for you, Joe.
Joe, you're still muted.
There you go.
Okay. It says unmuted now.
Yeah, we can hear you.
I'm with the Minnesota Cuba Committee. Get muted again?
No,
No,
you're
you're
good.
fine.
We can hear you.
We can hear you.
Okay. Well, let me just ask my question before it cuts out again. We're going to be arriving on November 15th, and the counter-revolutionaries are saying they're going to have protests on that day. So I'm wondering if there's been any discussion with ECAP about the idea of having some of us maybe acting as international observers. I'm sure they wouldn't want to have a whole group of 80 people, but if I'm thinking some of us could maybe help in counteracting the propaganda back in the U.S. when we get back here as eyewitnesses and so on.
Can I just jump in, John?
Yep.
And I want you to be, but I just want to say, first of all, we're going to be arriving. You should know that we're scheduled to arrive in the evening. It just happens to be that that's the way that the flight had been scheduled, and that has got nothing to do with any other protests. Number one. Number two, we're going and we are going to, go as to learn and experience what we can in Cuba, and we're not going as observers of any other particular activity. We're not putting, I think, we feel that our, what we ought to be doing is continuing to go as the Caravan, to do what we've been doing for the last 30 years, which is to go in solidarity and understanding and friction. And that's our purpose, and not to get sidetracked by what other folk may choose to do in Cuba or not. But the bottom line is that our intent is not to go as anything other than the Caravan, which will be going to learn, experience the reality, and find, to follow what we think is going to be a really rigorous and interesting and informative program. But our plan is not to attend. I just want to be very clear, as any kind of observers. We've not been asked to do that. We've not asked to do that. We've asked to go, as we have in the past, as friends and supporters of Cuba, to learn about the reality there. John, I just wanted to make sure that was clear. If there's something more you want to say.
No, that's fine. That's fine. Charles O'Brien next.
Thanks, all. Charles Brown. I am a UAE organizer in the Tidewater area of Virginia. I reside in Hampton. I'm also co-chair of the Tidewater Workers Assembly, which is under the Southern Workers Assembly. I'm just curious, and this is probably more of a logistical question, but I think it pertains to some of the other folks on here. If we are being sponsored, as far as the payment stuff that you're talking about, that wouldn't apply to us, right? Like, we're being fully sponsored.
Yeah, if you're the group from Southern Vision Alliance.
Correct.
Yeah, there's two groups, Southern Vision Alliance from primarily North Carolina, People's Forum from New York and around the country, where the payments are being handled centrally. Yeah.
So, okay, so all that stuff, so as far as the payments and all that, that doesn't apply to us. I just wanted to make sure.
Yeah.
And so my second question, and I think you answered it in the chat. So we are allowed to bring like recorders and things like, so I guess what's prohibited? What's some things that we can't bring? And I just want to make sure I'm on my P's and Q's as far as packing wise. Because I saw what we can bring, but I just want to make sure that there's nothing that we would normally think to bring with us, like when traveling, that's prohibited in Cuba.
Okay, Gail, you want to answer that?
I'm muted again, sorry. Just real quickly, I mean, Charles, I think thank you for asking the question. It's not like there's any hard and fast rules about certain things. People can bring cameras, can bring video recorders, can bring audio recorders. There may be certain events where it's not appropriate to, to record for different reasons. And we'll let folk know that ahead of time before we head out in the morning to that particular activity. But for the most part, I think, you should feel comfortable to bring those things. What I would say is things in mass, multiple USBs, multiple anything that appears as if we're bringing things, more than just for ourselves would be not, we don't want to do that. So you don't want to bring multiple, like I said, USBs or multiple telephones or different things that haven't, clearly are not things that you would normally be bringing for yourself on a delegation. I hope that that's clear, but there's a level of flexibility, but in terms of how we are able to record, take pictures and all that, that'll be kind of, we'll talk about that before we head out each morning or the night before. John?
Yeah. Just to give an anecdote, many years ago, I went from Britain to Cuba, and we'd been sending ambulances to Cuba, and we were looking at the possibility of sending old fire engines. So the Fire Brigades Union had asked me to take photos of fire engines in Cuba to see what connections they had. And I was conscious that the fire service in Cuba is part of the Ministry of Interior, police, and that might not be an appropriate thing to photograph. So what I did was I went to a fire station in Havana, introduced myself, explained who I was, what the purpose was. Did they mind me taking a photograph of their fire engines? And they said, of course, go ahead. So that's what it's about, flexibility. It's about being sensitive to host the situation. Generally, people will be fine about it being photographed. Sometimes it may not be appropriate. And of course, if you're photographing individuals, ask their permission. Before we have other hands raised, I want to take a question in the chat from Marty about changing money. So you can't use US dollars in Cuba, and you can't use credit cards. You can only use Cuban pesos, and we will be changing foreign currency into Cuban pesos in Cuba in an organized way. In the past, we've just taken dollars. Because of Trump's tightening of the blockade, it's now very difficult for Cuba to use dollars, US dollars, for anything. It's not impossible, very difficult. So their request, their very strong request, is don't bring US dollars. Change your US dollars in advance into Canadian dollars or euros or whatever international currency is easiest for you, and bring that instead. And that will be changed into pesos when we get there. Okay, Julie.
Will we have some free time if we wanted to go visit someone? I have two friends that have told me about friends of theirs that they lived in Cuba for a number of years, and they'd like for me to meet these friends. Would I have free time to be able to do that?
I'll take that. Yes, there will be some free time. It will be busy, but it's not everything. Free time will mostly be in the evening. There will occasionally be some free time during the day, but mostly in the evening. And yes, you can go and visit friends, but come back for the night. You're staying with us.
Sure, right. No, I just meant a short visit.
Okay, another Julie Walensky.
Okay, well, thanks. I'm really excited about going on this friendship caravan and learning more about the process, the revolutionary process. A couple questions in terms of the currency exchange. Should we be doing that before we get to Miami, or is that something that is going to be arranged in Miami in terms of like dollars to either Canadian currency or euros? And then the other question I have is I'm a little kind of confused about like the supplies that are being organized through as part of the Friendship Caravan. I know that there was like information in terms of medical supplies, PPE that's actually being brought as a gesture of solidarity and stuff. But so how does that get kind of carried in, and how does that become like, I guess like goes through customs? And I ask this because there's a couple people in the Chicago, so I'm involved in the Chicago caravan planning stuff, and there's several people who have been talking about like they have things that they want to send to Cuba, like Pampers, that kind of stuff, and I don't know, like I'm not sure what to tell them. So I don't know, can you like get some, we get a little bit more clarification in terms of that stuff?
Yeah, okay. So first of all, on the money. So as I said, we emphasize, we are asking you to change your US dollars into Canadian dollars or euros, doesn't matter which, beforehand. We don't have any magic mechanisms for making that work. There's things that people have helpfully put in the chat already. I advise you to think you should look at those. You can arrange this through your bank in advance. There's a possibility of being able to do it at Miami International Airport. But this is down to you. We're not organizing that centrally. What we will organize is once you get to Cuba, you will change your international currency into Cuban pesos. Will you be able to change any unused pesos back before returning? Usually that is possible at the airport, but don't expect to be able to change it back into US dollars. But Gail, you may have something to say on that.
I just want to say what we're going to do is really encourage people to convert whatever money they have to Cuban currency in small batches, so you don't wind up with a whole lot of excess money. So it wouldn't be advisable to take all your money and try to do it all at one time, and that's typically been the suggestion. And then what people have said in the chat is good about trying to make exchange whatever money you want into your euros or Canadian dollars. I would advise to do that ahead of time and not at the airport, just to give yourself that wiggle room and flexibility. Go ahead, John.
Yeah, okay. So on the material aid, as Gail said, we are buying a lot of over-the-counter, but in bulk, but important medications and some prescription medications. That's what we're doing with the $40,000+ that have been raised, and we're still raising money. And you're free to donate to that fund. We're also accepting, we're not buying, we're accepting donations of syringes, PPE, and some of you I know are already organizing to bring those with you. The rules still apply about if it's got an expiry date on it, we need at least 6 months to run. And if it's sterile, it needs to be sterile, not opened. That I'm reluctant to get into people bringing random items of medical supplies, which might be appropriate, but might not. And we have to say, sorry, you've got to leave these behind. So, but if you've got contacts in a hospital and there's something that you think is good on offer for free, please write to me and we can judge whether it's appropriate for you to bring it or not. And to emphasize again that all the aid we take goes to the ecumenical committee that we've worked with for 30 years they will decide in conjunction with the Ministry of Health and Cuban doctors how it is used. We're not giving it out to individual doctors, individuals. That committee may decide that if we're visiting a hospital, we'll take some direct to the hospital, but that's their decision, not ours. We're not getting into, if somebody says, can you please take this that I've got to this hospital? We're not getting into that, no, that's for a different time. That's a fine for individuals who go to Cuba to do, a good thing to do, but it's not part of the Caravan. And just had a question about from Deborah, will we have the opportunity to bring items, clothing items back with us? Yes, you can purchase things in Cuba. It's not allowed by US regulations to bring back Cuban rum and Cuban cigars. If you want to try those, and please do that in Cuba. You can't bring them back, but you can bring souvenirs. That's another way of supporting Cuba, to spend money in Cuba on things to bring back. I think Charles has got his hand raised again.
I think Tucker also.
Okay.
I'll let Tucker go first.
Okay, Tucker.
You have to unmute yourself, Tucker.
You're still muted, Tucker.
There we go. We on now?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm in a difficult situation. I don't have my passport yet. I think I will, but I may not. So if I don't, I still will come down to Miami and maybe find out about Cubans in Miami. But that's something. I guess my question is, when is the next trip? If I don't make it this year, I certainly want to do it. What time next year is planned?
The summer, definitely.
Summer. Okay.
Usually we go second half of July. That's not fixed.
Yes.
It's definitely the summer.
And I should ask, are the visas, how do the visas work?
We as part of your fee, we are organizing the visas and the medical insurance.
Okay, well, thank you. I'm really looking forward to it, and I hope I can make it this year.
Okay. Tucker's one of a number of people in the situation of having to get his passport expedited. I want to say.
I mentioned, I'm David.
Oh, David. Sorry, David. Yes, David and Tucker are on together.
Right, thanks.
Yeah. Just to say that, please, if you, once you get that expedited, let me know as soon as possible. We understand that some people this may be running late. Again, let me know as soon as possible. If you hit a problem, tell me. If you can't come, we will refund your money. That's not in question. But I know you're offered to come to Miami anyway. And we'll have a number of people from Florida, including 3 people who are on this call from the Solidarity Movement in Miami. They are not personally Cuban Americans, but we will have a couple of Cuban Americans on the Caravan, and we will be meeting with some on the Sunday night in an interreligious solidarity event.
Thank you.
Charles, then Bob.
Yeah. So my question, I guess, is 2 parts, and I guess it's going back to the whole packing thing. I'm assuming even though we're meeting with dignitaries, we don't necessarily have to pack like a suit or anything, just something, casual, but, presentable, right?
Yes, the Cuban way is smart casual.
Right. But also one thing that stuck out to me as far as the toilet paper situation, I remember reading through the paper that you sent out, and it said something about bringing traveler's toilet paper. So when we're staying in the MLK Center, I'm assuming they what I guess when would we most likely need toilet paper? And I guess because that would kind of dictate how much I would bring.
You want to take that, Gal?
Sure. I appreciate that question because, of course, we all want to make sure that we have enough TP with us, but you don't have to bring. I would say if you just bring a roll, you're good. And then, or if you want to bring little tissue packets, and really that's partly because if you're out, there may not be toilet paper available in a particular, bathroom outside of where you're staying. There may be, but there may not be. But yeah, I mean, like you're fine with like a roll, you're good. or like I said, little tissue packets. I often bring little travel tissue packets. I just wanted to go back for a quick moment about clothing too, Charles, and for others, is that, yeah, I mean, it's not, you have to have a suit and tie and all of that. That wouldn't be appropriate anyway in Cuba, particularly given the heat. But we do, at any moment, you know, we want to be presentable. We're ambassadors and representatives of our solidarity movement. And so, you know, we don't want all ripped off t-shirts and just ripped up, you know, I mean, we want you to be comfortable, but we also want you to be presentable. And then there may be those occasions where we're having an opportunity for certain meetings that, you know, we just want you to, you know, be more, you know, presentable. I think just being presentable is a good rule of thumb. And since I have the floor, real quickly, anybody who has medicines, needs medicines, if you take medicines, if there's certain things that you require, bring them. In no way assume, and in fact, don't assume, go the opposite. Assume that they will not be available in Cuba. So whatever it is that you need, please bring those. We've had people who have said, well, I thought that I would be able to kind of get these in Cuba. Don't do that, particularly if these are medicines that you require to help you with your own well-being. Be sure to pack enough and bring those things. It's really, really, I can't emphasize that enough. There you go, John.
Yeah, just to add in that, Andres, that, you know, once I spent time, several months in Cuba, not as a tourist, but as an individual, to get to know the country better. And I was often wearing shorts, many Cubans wear shorts, but in daily life. And once I went to go into the movie theatre, and I'd forgotten the rule that says, for whatever reason, you can't go into a movie theatre wearing shorts. So I went to go in and was stopped and told I couldn't. I was actually pleased because I thought they're not treating me like some special foreign visitor. They're just saying, this is the rule, you're not allowed in. Go and put some trousers on. So, observation. Quick question in the chat about this, something we put in the briefing about a passport needs 6 months to run. We put that in because there are many countries that that rule can, it's not saying it is, but can be enforced. What we've been told by the charter company that we're working with is that you don't need to worry about that on this flight. All of you sent me your passport information. I've got enough time on your passport.
John, just before you move on, Ty, thank you, Ty, for the reminder. Ty put a very, 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 and I'll say it one more time, very important message in the chat. Do not flush toilet paper or baby wipes, or, you know, there will be a little bit, and I know that for some people it may take a minute to get accustomed to that, but there is a garbage can next to the toilet. That's where you want to, once you have used your paper, make sure that you put it there. The pipes simply cannot handle the toilet paper or baby wipes or anything like that. So make sure you have, and we'll remind you of this. I know that it may take some reminding for many of us, some of us, but you don't want to flush your toilet paper. Thank you, Ty.
Okay, and just like Joe put in the chat, proof of vaccination. And we've asked all of you to provide that in advance, and you have to, because you wouldn't be able to come on the Caravan without that. But I do think you should bring that card with you to Cuba. Okay, Bob?
Well, that was my main question as well. I don't know if it's on your telephone, is that sufficient, or do you really need to bring the card as well? And the less important question was, should we bring bathing suits? Will there be any opportunity to jump in the water in Cuba?
So I think if you've got access to it on your phone and you've got batteries for your phone, it's working, that's okay. And yes, there will be an opportunity for those who want to. So it's on the list of suggested packing items, bathing suits. Okay, other questions?
So I'm assuming we can, oh, I'm sorry. Did anyone else had a hand raised?
Whoever it was, I don't know who's
Thank
speaking.
you. Camilla?
Wait,
Camilo?
okay, Camilo, yes, you can go.
I'll be brief. This is related. Good evening, Camilo Coco, Miami. Related to clothing. I know we're going to be out there for 10 days, and we probably want to bring the least amount of clothing. But will there be any possibility for laundry?
Yeah, at the Martin Luther King Center, there's an arrangement whereby you can leave a plastic bag with clothes in, and staff, they don't have facilities there, but staff will take it away, and for a few dollars or a few euros, Canadian dollars, whatever, they will, depending on how much, they can launder your clothes. That only applies in Havana. It doesn't. We won't have that option, we believe, in Matanzas. I want to ask you, Camilo, a question, and to Pete and Nancy, people from Miami. Is there anything that from Miami you want to tell people to prepare people for coming to Miami? If there isn't, that's fine, but it just suddenly occurred to me.
It's an interesting question. I guess that if we are to be exposed to any public event, that we would need to be considering some kind of security, but I'm not totally sure of what type of activities we'll have during the 2 days of orientation. But yeah, Miami is a very interesting city when it comes to Cuba politics. So welcome to Miami.
Okay, so for instance, I'm imagining it would not be a good idea to arrive at Miami Airport wearing a Che t-shirt.
That was what I was just gonna raise with people. It's
okay,
just.
Pete. Yeah.
Actually, that happened to me in 1983. I was picking up a connecting flight in Miami to Nicaragua. So I figured I was going to have almost no time except in the airport. And as it turned out, our flight was canceled for that day. Aeronica had a flat tire and we had to wait till the next day. And they put us up in a motel called the Alpha 66 Motel. At which point on the bus, I turned my Che Guevara t-shirt inside out as I walked into the motel. And I think Camilo will explain the significance of Alpha 66.
Thank you, Ty. Pete, do you want to add anything to that?
Just that we hope that people will have an opportunity to meet some of the other kind of Cubans in Miami during the orientation, during the service that will be part of our orientation. We're working on that with Gail and John.
Okay. Something else in the chat about returning. Up to this trip, all our trips have been going on principle without a license. And we've always prepared people very thoroughly at orientation and in Cuba to handle US Customs, US immigration on return, around that. This time we're going because we had no choice with a license, because I mean, at the moment, there's no airlines flying from Mexico to Cuba anyway, but all the Mexican airlines and Canadian airlines fly to Cuba now, or did. If you're a US citizen, you have to have a license to get on them. So this year we're going with a license. So it's a legal trip, but even so, there could be issues on return. Individual customs immigration officers who don't like you because you've been to Cuba. So we will have a briefing definitely about that and be advising you about. Do you want to add to that, Gail?
Yeah, I just want to say, normally, first of all, normally we don't have this. We don't have an online, we meet up in our respective places, whether that might be in Canada or Mexico, and orientation is different. This is going to be a different orientation. typically because the caravans, of which I'll talk more about, when we get together in Florida. But the history of the caravans is it's been really a travel challenge, right? It's been an opportunity to say we have a right to go and learn about Cuba, to be in solidarity with our family in Cuba, and we reject the position of the U.S. government, which says you have to ask for permission. In some ways, ironically, we've come full circle this year, primarily because of COVID. I mean, John's right that there aren't flights out of some of those other countries. But we said it's important for us to go. It's important for us to be there. As I said before, it's important for us to bring aid in a different way. There's a little focus on aid because of all the shortages. But so we're going differently. We're going through Miami. It's a licensed trip. But we will be talking. Is it Lena or Lena? Lena?
Lena, you got it.
Thanks, Lena. Nice to meet you. We'll be talking about some of the questions that you raised because they're important. Because regardless of the fact that we're going with a license, there may be some kind of pushback that you get, and you need to feel a level of comfort and confidence in what you can and can't say. We're not doing anything illegal. We're going in solidarity with our friends and our family in Cuba, but you should be informed about what kind of pushback you might get, and we'll be definitely talking about that.
Okay. Next question, Anne.
Hi, everybody. I just wondered about towels or towel and washcloth. Is that provided by the center or do we bring it?
Gail,
We will need them for the retreat center in Florida. Anyway, I could go about what we've done in the past, but you will, there's beds and cots, but you'll need some kind of sheets for the bedding there, not when you're in Cuba. And here I would love to shift over to Camilo and to Peter and to Soledad. I mean, we don't know, obviously, we can't project the weather, but generally it's pretty warm. So are sheets sufficient to cover over? They're mattresses. So we need to cover over mattresses. So what we're suggesting are some kind of a sheet and, depending upon what you like, a little pillow or travel pillow. Is that fair, Camilo, Pete, in terms of?
Well, it depends.
It's not New York, where,
It's probably
experience 50-degree weather.
You're probably talking about a place that isn't air conditioned, I assume, from what you're saying. If it's air conditioned, people may definitely want a top sheet, but
yeah,
I don't know.
That's fair. You're right. I don't think I think we're talking pretty much open air facility. The reason I mention that is because that's stuff that you have to carry with you to Cuba. So it's something to add to what you're taking. But I would say, lightweight, and it's not like we're talking, I don't know, people are from different parts of the country. Blankets are heavy things, but you should know that there's sheets needed for the bedding, the beds in Florida.
Okay. Just to address Brittany's question about the 3 people who are joining, or 5 people who are joining us from Miami will, I assume, be staying in their own homes and being at orientation during the day. They don't need sheets and pillow. But Brittany, since you're coming from further north in Florida, you will be staying at the orientation center. You will need to bring sheets and a pillow. Okay.
And can I just jump in, because Stephanie, thank you, and hi Stephanie, talked about filtered water, that that the water at the MLK Center is filtered, so it's not tap water. And bring a water bottle, but we do encourage people to drink bottled water. I understand, trust me, the horrible effects of the bottles, but bring your reusable water bottle. We're going to make sure that there's water not only at the places where we're staying, but also at on the buses. So you can bring your reusable water bottle.
Yeah. Just to say that tap water in Cuba, depending on where it is, it's not necessarily bad, but it's not as high quality as some places in the US. I mean, there's some pretty terrible water in the US as well. But for a visit where the most likely problem you're going to have is something that upsets your stomach, you don't want to be risking it by drinking tap water in Cuba or using tap water to brush your teeth with either. Question, will we have time to sightsee in Miami? No. Simple answer. You will have some time to sightsee in Cuba, but not in Miami. Jefferson, did you have a question? Jefferson Acevedo, did your hand go up at one point, or did I get that wrong?
John, I was going to ask the question, but it was basically the same question that Lena asked. So I lower my hand. Thank you.
Okay. So Charles, you had another question, I believe.
Yes, I was about to put it in the chat, but where, like in Miami, are we gonna find out where we're staying, like before we get there, or I mean, like is the address being held secret for now, or? Because I know sometimes, like with trips like these, I know they like to, keep certain stuff confidential until the day of, just so it doesn't get out. So I guess, are we gonna find out exactly where we'll be staying, or or is that being kept on the hush hush until we get there?
Gail?
Let me just speak on this, and it's a fair question, Charles. We, IFCO, made the decision. What we're going to do is, kind of keep that a little close to the vest for now. In part, the reality is that there are some people who don't like what it is we do. I'm not saying that's the case with everybody in, that might be in Southern Florida or in the Miami area. But we feel the need to be secure and safe and make sure that everybody arrives and is cared for. So what we're doing right now is working out with our local partners and friends in the Miami area, a transportation from the airport. We'll probably be arranging, staggered trips from the airport out to the orientation site. And we're going to wait until we get closer for that. We just don't want it to be a situation where there might be people who are not favorable about what we're doing, arriving at our and being a surprise for our orientation site. It's a decision that the IFCO Board of Directors has, instilled, that they feel that this is what we need to do. And me as the director, I'm saying that's what we're doing. So we'll be sharing that, Charles, but it'll be like way much closer to the trip.
Yeah, and just a question from Pete about Miami. We have 3 Cuba Solidarity activists from Miami on the call: Camilo, Pete, and Nancy. Not on the call tonight, but joining us on the Caravan will be Ada and Damian, who are Cuban Americans, variously involved in sending aid to Cuba, involved with the charter flight company. So we'll get to meet them in Miami.
Can we just, let's just do everybody see Pete, you want to just kind of raise your hand there, and Camilo, he sees Camilo, and Nancy. Yeah.
And I believe, Ty, you're Cuban American? You're muted, Ty. You're muted. Okay.
That's okay.
Okay. Any other questions?
I think someone asked in the chat, and I kind of had the same question as to the sheets. I know they said that they want us, we can bring those with us to Miami, but if the center needs them, I guess would they accept donations? Because I believe Jean or someone asked in the chat, they said, can they use the sheet for future trips, or?
I'm sorry, Charles, didn't mean to cut you off, but I'm sure that they'd be happy to receive them. And we do have other local folk who I'm sure could launder them and present them to them, but I'm sure they would accept those donations.
Yeah,
sure. And then that way, right, you wouldn't have to carry them all the way on to Cuba.
Yeah. If I could segue from that into something, tips. I mean, a lot of things are all inclusive in this trip, but tipping is not. We completely discourage individual tipping of people. What we do is a collective tip, and we want to collect money for the people who service us, the people who work in the kitchen at Martin Luther King Center, or do the bedding, or people will do being the same in Matanzas. And so we will be collecting money from you. We suggest a sliding scale of $40 average. Some people can and choose to give more than that. Some people we know can't give that much, but that's what we suggest. We collect that money and we, in a fair way, hand it out. That's tipping. But other people, I mean, the sheet was raised, other people donate clothing at the end of their trip. They leave some of their clothing behind. They donate it to the Martin Luther King Center. Martin Luther King Center will decide what to do with it. So that's all options. I'm going to take Mike first because he hasn't asked a question, and then Bob.
Hi. Since I'm traveling for quite a while before Miami and after, is it possible that we can find some way to store things in Miami while we're gone to Cuba?
I want to put that question to the folk from Miami to say, can you help Mike with that?
I don't quite understand the question.
Why don't you send John, or John maybe send Mike my email address, and we can out directly without taking everyone else's time.
Okay, yeah, I'll do that. So I'll be in touch with you, Mike, about where you can store your stuff.
Okay.
A question. So sheets are for Miami only, yes, but with that exception that we made for Mike, you need to take your sheets with you. You can't leave them at the center we're staying at in Miami. Question to other tips in euros or Canadian dollars? Yes, either. Yeah. Bob.
Well, on the topic of money, since we can't use credit cards or anything, that if you could list the kinds of things that we would need money for, besides buying books or whatever, things like that. You mentioned the tip and laundry. Any other ideas, common things?
Yeah, so it's whatever souvenirs you want to bring back from Cuba. Evening, okay, so you may want in the evening, particularly in Havana, you may want to go out for the evening. That could involve buying soft drinks, buying beer. It could involve going into downtown. You might want to go to a jazz club. You might so the entrance to jazz club, taxi, and obviously people can share taxis, but still they cost. Those are the principal things. Yeah. Okay. We've been on for as long as we had planned, and there's a lot of you. Unless there's anything really urgent, I'm going to propose that we
Just
bring
one
this
more
in.
question.
Okay, one more. Yeah, Charles.
So with the medicine, my understanding is y'all will have a bag for us as far as what we're supposed to bring to Cuba.
Yes, some people are bringing stuff with them as well, but that's all right. But you don't need to bring anything. We will supply it.
Yeah, I was asking because I guess like how big of a bag? Because I was gonna bring a big bag. So just so I know how to.
Can I jump in and just say, John, maybe that's an individual call you can have with Charles.
Okay, no problem.
That's okay. I'm just letting you know that what we're counting on is that each person would be assigned a bag, a duffel bag, 70 pound, at least one 70-pound duffel bag of meds. So there is, the monies that we've raised will be purchasing medicines, and we'll be assigning them to each of the caravanistas. That's how we're getting them, to the island. So I think those of you who do have medicines, it would be really important to let John know so that we can get an idea of weight, because weight is going to be critical. When we did these caravans way back in the day and we put stuff onto a ship, that was less of an issue. Now we're on a plane, so it's an issue. the reality, the great thing is that there is a place where we'll be able to put additional meds into a store, into a warehouse in case for future shipment if we can't bring them all with us. But it's really important for people who are thinking about bringing meds to have communication with John about what that is and how much it is, so that we can do this very delicate dance regarding weight of additional aid. So,
Okay.
And I would
Spend. Sorry, Gary, let's say something more.
just recommend definitely be in touch with John and or myself, but through John with any additional questions. And if it turns out that we need to, if it's advisable for us to figure out a second briefing before people get down, we can do that. But other than that, we'll definitely be hitting a lot of the points that people have raised in Miami.
Yeah.
And I guess lastly, if I can, and maybe we were going to do this, Cheryl, who we love and adore, Cheryl Labash, who just said, don't forget to tell people about the November 5th National Send-Off. We're going to have a hybrid thing in New York, but those who can actually, we want you to join via Zoom link as individuals from the cities you are, the groups that are, that are sponsoring you or that you work with, so that we've got a real national sense that, nationally, Cuba's opening up and we're going to be there. So keep that in mind as well. We'll be sending out more information about the November 5th send-off. Back to you, John.
Just quickly from me, apart from rum and cigars, everything else that's normal to bring back from visiting another country, you can bring back. And the baggage charges on the flights to Cuba and back will be handled by us. Obviously, if you've got to pay your own costs coming to Miami and back to Miami, back from Miami. So any questions, you can email me.
And John, we need to let each person know what they, it's on us, but only up to a certain point, right? Each person will have their own personal luggage, and then we'll be paying for the extra medical.
Okay, so yeah, questions to me, if possible by email, but if it's something that you need to talk through, you can phone me. You should all have my cell phone. I'm on the Pacific coast, so that's the time I'm on, time zone one. Okay, thank you for attending. Glad to seeing many of you in person for the first time. Look forward to seeing you again in Miami.
I got to unmute. Thank you, everybody. Really appreciate you being here.
Thank you.
Viva
See you
Cuba.
soon.
Thank you.
Bye, all.
Thank you. See you in Miami.
Thank you both. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yay. Good to see you, Mike. Steelstein.
Oh, I can listen.
Okay.
Oh, yeah, I finally got unmuted so I could say hi to Gail. Anyway, hello.
Hey, Mike. I said, hi, good to see you, Mike.
Yeah. Yeah, it took me a while to get unmuted. So
Yeah.
I don't see a lot of familiar faces. This is a lot of new people.
Yeah, as I said,
Oh,
67 people, first caravan. Only about
Yeah.
12 been on the caravan before.
Okay, so I'll be an old timer.
Yeah,
Bye,
yeah.
guys. I gotta go.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye, Gail.
Bye.
Bye, John. I'm going to leave. It was nice to see you.
Yeah, and you,
Look
Mike.
forward to seeing you in November.
Yeah, and also we don't live too far apart now. I'm in Portland, so
You're in Portland?
I'm living in Portland now.
Oh, wow, I didn't know that.
We moved.
Ah,
I and my wife, we moved to Portland 2 months ago, and
okay.
once I get back from Caravan, I'm going to be starting to organize in Portland.
Well, my son Michael, who's on the call, is also in Portland.
Good,
So-
great. I'll recruit him.
Yeah. Well, see you.
Okay.
Bye.